Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two cousins who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
I'm Monica.
And we are on episode 2 of season 1 of Hemlock Grove. All right, this episode is called The Angel. And like every other episode of season 1, it was released on April 19th, 2013. It was directed by Darren Serafian and written by Brian McGreevy and Lee Shipman. Like we talked about last week, Brian McGreevy and Lee Shipman, they wrote the first episode. I don't really know anything about them, so I'm not going to harp on that. But Darren Serafian has a lot of TV directing under his belt. He directed 22 episodes of Lost. He directed some episodes for all 3 of the CSI shows. He directed an episode of Buffy. He directed one of my favorite episodes of Lost. He directed an episode of Fringe, which is my favorite show. He was also one of the executive producers on the show. So he's got a decent resume there. Although I will say that on IMDb, when I was looking at all his credits to put them in here, he was also saved to a list of the worst directors ever.
Love it.
Which is just a fan-made list, but I was like, oh, okay. But he directed the episode of Lost that's called Question Mark, which is in season 2, and it's like a really, really good episode of Lost. So like, and the episode he directed of Fringe was also in season 2 of Fringe, which is one of the better seasons. So I went into it having hope.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so the Netflix blurb. Roman confronts Peter at the crime scene, finding common ground. Letha reveals a shocking secret, and Olivia and Norman fall into old habits.
For the record, Olivia is Roman's mom. My dumbass just kept calling her Julia.
And for some reason, the only thing I trusted Monica on last week was that this woman's name was Julia. And that turned out to be viciously wrong.
I was close enough. Julia, Olivia, they're both, like, come on.
Oh.
Like, literally, my brain, and when we started talking about Olivia.
I just kicked my computer and almost threw it across the room.
I love that. Also, for everyone who is aware of the fact that me and Emma are in completely different time zones. So right now it is 9:41 in the morning, and I shouldn't look as tired as I do. But I was up till 5 last night.
And for me it is 8:41 p.m. and I did work an 8-hour day.
Yeah, so like we're on very extremely polar opposite schedules.
But neither of us are awake.
That's the thing. It's like the sleep deprived like little show that we'll do. It's like last felt much because I had like a caffeine rush. But before we had started filming, me and Mary Kate sat and talked for 3 hours, and so like I was starting to crash once we started filming, and I drank the coffee so I'd be awake during filming.
Her crash involved us forgetting every character's name, mostly the fact that Olivia, not Julia.
Not Julia. I kept forgetting Norman's name. I kept calling him like Nathan or something like.
You called him Nathan and Nolan.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Listen, I
right.
never claimed a smart woman, only a woman.
Well, there's that. Okay, so let's get into this episode. Overall, I liked it.
Yes. Same
Um,
here.
We start the episode exactly where we left off episode 1. So Roman and Peter are talking in the graveyard, and not the graveyard, the
girl
place where the girl
Yeah.
died. And Roman is accusing Peter of killing her, and Peter said, "No, dude, I thought you did it." So apparently neither of them did it, or one of them is a really good liar. TBD.
Then while Peter and Roman are having like this little like, you know, it's not really a conflict, it's almost like a odd weird like I want to be your, like they both like kind of want to be each other's friends like at this point, but they're like
there's like a tension of, can I trust you?
Yes.
Maybe.
You can tell like I feel like they both really want to, because I feel like they both are like extreme outsiders, especially within the first episode.
Yeah.
And so then as they're sitting there kind of doing this weird uncomfortable bonding, then the cops show up and Roman just like walks over there. He tells Peter like, I'll handle it, and he walks over there and he does like
at first you think he's gonna handle it by being rich, and he tries to. He's like, my mom is gonna freak out, and they're like, we don't really care about your mom at all. So then he
Pennywise.
Yeah. In Vampire Diaries, that is called compulsion. They compel people. And I literally wrote, oh my God, Roman can mind control? Compel? What? But it makes his nose bleed. That's my note.
He's 11. He's 11. He's 11's like long lost. It's
also like in again, Vampire Diaries, because that's my favorite show on the whole planet. In the beginning of the show, when Bonnie was first learning how to use her magic, every time she would use something that was like too strong, her nose would bleed. So it's like, I have these abilities, but I don't actually know how to use them. So when I do, it's like too much for my body.
Yes. And like, I feel like Roman definitely knows that he is something different, but I have a feeling he has no idea what the hell he is.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he just like discovers bits and pieces about himself and then like tries to piece it together. So then we cut to Letha laying in bed in all white, and this weird light appears, and then an angel is standing there, and then the credits happen. And it was very weird, and I said, oh, well, that's why the episode's called The Angel. Great. Yeah, no idea.
That led me to believe like either she's gonna be I'm like, is this gonna be some weird supernatural thing? Like, is like she gonna get possessed by an angel? But then well, as you know, later on in the episode, we know why that angel.
Well, I was just very grateful that it was an angel, as odd as that sounds, because when they first showed her in bed and then weird light coming from it, I was like, God damn it, it's going to be aliens, after I just said that I don't want there to be aliens in this show.
Yes.
And then it wasn't, and I was glad. So then credits. The only comment I have to make about the credits is that I watched it more closely this time, and I was correct. It was a griffin. You can see the lion tail on its butt.
Lion tail booty.
Facts. The next scene is Shelley sending an email to Norman, and it's just like a cute, like, here's how my life's going. I'm trying to stand up to my mom, be my own person. High school's hard when you're a freak. The werewolf boy is the only person who's nice to me, so I hope he didn't really kill that girl because then I can't have a friend. Like, but, and it was so cute. I really just wrote like a heart and a smiley face. But the one thing that I cleared up questions for me was that Norman is a psychiatrist or a psychologist. At this point, we still didn't really know what the F's job was.
Yeah.
He is a doctor of some kind of mental capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Which, of course, then leads to the next scene where Norman is reading said email, and Letha and her mom walk in and say that Letha
Is pregnant.
is pregnant.
And the real is that she said that she got, pregnant by an angel.
It is the Immaculate Conception. She is a virgin. She has not had the intercourse. And she has been convinced that she's pregnant for a while, but didn't say anything until she was far enough along that she couldn't pretend she wasn't pregnant anymore. And she is keeping the angel baby.
And the only thing is that I feel like Norman is the only one reacting to this with,
Any sense of responsibility?
Yeah, because mom's just like, oh, just like let her be. And he's like, bro, she's like, you probably got raped, and she's like using this as a psychological barrier to like pretend like
because we find out there's a scene in between him and talking to Letha and us finding out this information, because we don't find out all the backstory of her being pregnant until he talks to Olivia. But he's talking to Olivia, and first he assumes that Olivia and Dr. Price had something to do with it, which is a very odd assumption. Not really sure how that one works because we still don't know anything about Dr. Price.
He gets like heebie-jeebies. I don't trust him.
Yeah. And so his first assumption is that Dr. Price is why she's pregnant. And then his second assumption is that she was raped and has created a psychological shell story for herself to not face the pain of what actually happened to her. And so she's created this hallucination of an angel, which is a legitimate thing that can psychologically happen to people from trauma. But it just goes to show that he's a psychologist, because whose first thought is, oh, she's lying and she was raped?
Exactly.
It's
but the thing is that in a sense like that, at least he's trying to look at it with sensibility, but also he's being charismatic at the same time when it comes with Letha, which is nice.
Well, but here's the thing. If this was any other character in the show being oh, angels can't actually impregnate you, you must have some kind of psychological barrier, I would maybe believe it. Except for the fact that Norman is Shelley's psychiatrist / uncle. Shelley, the mutated Frankenstein, half of a face that is not human, and he doesn't believe that it's possible for an angel to impregnate someone?
Yeah. Unless the reasons for why Shelley is the way she is aren't supernatural reasons, and they are
what? She was dropped in a nuclear reactor on her birth?
It's, you don't know, there could have been something tied up with Price. But he has his hooks in with that pain. And I can see that it's going to cause a huge fucking problem.
Yeah. But before Norman goes to Olivia to talk to her, we see the most disturbing scene ever. No. The most disturbing scene.
Then
No.
there's no scene.
There's a lot more disturbing scenes to come. But Roman is chilling in his class, and he looks over at a girl who has a tampon sticking out of her purse. She raises her hand and asks to go to the restroom. So then he immediately raises his hand and asks to go to the restroom too. And you're like, oh, cool, kinky, like sneaky teenager sex, whatever. Except then, turns out they're not boning. He is doing the oral sex on her bloody, menstruating vagina. My note for that scene said, "Oh dear God, well, I guess that's one way to get blood."
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And like, at least he's smarter than Edward Cullen.
Right. Think about it. How many vampires could get away with not killing someone and just taking moon blood?
Yeah, like literally Edward Cullen was so stupid. Like Bella, like she was on her period, and he could have been like, "Damn, I'm gonna just yeet down there real quick."
He just solved the murder problem for every fictional teenage vampire in the history of teenage vampires.
Exactly.
I just wish we hadn't had to watch it.
Exactly.
And by watch it, I mean they didn't show either of the people. They showed the bathroom stall from the outside. But his hands were bloody and leaving marks on the ground, and he was very clearly on the floor while she was standing up. So there was no question as to what was happening.
Because when you go by the stall, it looks like it's just like normal boning at first, but then you see his hand drop to the floor, and you're like, oh no,
oh yeah. But the very hysterically funny part of that scene was this girl was not quiet in her pleasure. And Peter was standing outside the bathroom door, not really sure what was happening. And then Lethal walked by and he said, "This is not what it." Okay, no, this is exactly what it looks like. And I appreciate that because Peter may be my favorite character still.
I like Peter. He kind of won me a little bit. Like that's the thing that they're doing real well is that I can't like.
I would say because at the end of last episode, I was very clearly Team Peter and you were Team Roman, but I have warmed a lot to Roman this episode and you have warmed a lot to Peter this episode. And
they definitely did a lot to make you like these two characters, which makes me believe that they're gonna be characters that are together, not the stereotypical, like vampire versus werewolf thing. Yeah. I feel like they're going to be like fighting a greater evil together. Yeah. Peter, I think, like knows more than like Roman does, and I think Peter's gonna help him in that way, like find out. Yeah. So that to like their advantage and shit like that.
Yeah. Okay. So then after the weird sex scene, we go to the hotel bar, and that is where this conversation between Norman and Olivia happen. But then Olivia asks Norman why he thinks that she would have anything to do with it. And he says, I'm afraid of what you would do if you thought you were going to lose me. And then they bone.
Yeah.
And post-coital, Olivia looks very pleased with herself and is continuing to say flirtatious, seductive things. And Norman looks very disgusted with himself and says, "I meant it last time when I said we were done, and now I'm saying it again. This is over. We are done."
Yeah. My thing is that not going to be the case.
Yeah.
Olivia, if she is an au pair, like I would assume if Roman is too. Like, she's an au pair, wouldn't she have the same fucking abilities as, like, being able to, like, you know, like, mind bend that bitch and be like, no, you are going to be with me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just seems plausible that that's how she's going to get what she wants. And then, like, Norman, wow, what the fuck did you do to me? That's kind of mean. And then he'll get mad.
So then we flash back to school for the end of the day, and they're making announcements on the PA system that the Halloween dance is that night, but due to the recent tragic murder in town, there are some costumes that are prohibited from the dance. And honestly, who would go to a high school dance as a bloodied corpse?
Yeah.
You dress as the sluttiest thing you can think of and get away with at school.
Exactly.
So at the end of the day, Peter is talking to Shelly and he's like, oh, are you going to go to the dance? And she said, no. Like, why would I go? And he's like, well, if you're not going, I'm not going. Like, you're the prettiest girl there. And it was very clearly like, he wasn't flirting with her. It was just being sweet and like big brotherly, and like it melted my heart.
Like, the thing is like Peter had a soft spot with her literally since the first time he saw her.
And even in that first scene when him and Roman are trying to like figure each other out, he's like, what is up with your sister?
Yeah.
Like, Peter's just, and I don't know if it's like morbid curiosity and it's going to turn into something negative, but for the moment, it's like he feels this kinship with her because she's also a freak, but she can't hide it. And so he like has this protective thing for her, and I love it, and it melted my heart. So Roman comes over and is like, keep your hands off my sister.
Yeah.
And it gets really awkward for a second. And Peter and Shelly both laugh. And he's like, are you laughing at me? And then he's like, no, I'm just fucking kidding you. Do you want to ride home?
Like, the thing is like Peter and Roman both, I feel like, have a very like to their like rough exteriors, a very, very sweet soft spot for Shelly. Yeah. Like, and it's so like, and I think that's why I fell in love with these two characters so quickly. I'm like, yeah, like that's the type of guy I want to be with, who's like a dick to literally everyone else, but then would be like so nurturing to like the people that they care about. And that is quality content right there.
So Roman does give Peter a ride home, and they are bonding over cars and manly things, and the fact that neither of them have dads.
Just, you know, your typical teenage boy stuff, cars and daddy.
Cars and daddy issues, exactly. But the one note that I did have about this is like, based on the flashback in the first episode, we still aren't 100% sure if JR killed himself or if Olivia killed him. But Roman truly believes that his dad committed suicide. He says like that his dad killed himself. And he says, where's your dad? And Peter said, still out for that proverbial carton of milk. So Peter's dad left them, potentially. I still don't know if there's more to the story than that, because in this scene, it's very obvious that Roman really wants to be Peter's friend, and Peter's still very close to it. He's not about it. But I don't think Roman has ever had a friend before.
Besides, you know, like his family members, then that can look off as a little like last episode, a little incestually, and I'm like,
I have so many comments about that later.
Yeah, same.
So Roman really desperately wants to be Peter's friend. And Um, sorry, that was weird. He really wants to be Peter's friend, but also he said something to Peter. So he gets to Peter's house to drop him off, and he asked Peter, he said, "Can you feel it sometimes?" And Peter's like, "What? Feel what? This is weird." He was like, "What's underneath us?" Peter's snarky ass goes, "The sewage system?" And he said, "Deeper than that." But he said, "I just feel like something really big is about to happen," which gets brought up again later in the episode. But so this is the first time it gets said. Then we go inside the house, and Peter and his mom. Peter does not go to the Halloween dance. He stays at home with his mom, and they're watching a movie. And
I watched the original Night of the Living Dead. Is what they're watching. Yeah, it's Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, yeah. Like, Barbara, they're coming for you.
Barbara.
Yeah, okay. But in the middle of the movie, there is a commercial for the Godfrey Institute, and we find out that what the Godfrey Institute does is medical research.
Big fucking there.
Right, shocking, but it adds to the terror that is all the secrets about Dr. Price, because that kind of man should not be in medicine.
I feel like there's some human type of shit that's like he's trying to play God. Like he has a major God complex. I have a big feeling he's trying to play God, and it's just gonna go very, very wrong.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. Then we cut to people getting ready for the dance. I don't remember whose house we go to first.
I think it was Hemingway and her two friends, the sheriff's daughters, I think were.
I think so, yes. Hemingway's real name is Christina.
That is her actual name.
So Christina and her friends, who are named Alyssa and Alexa, and they are twins, they are Sheriff Tom's daughters. Sheriff Tom was clearly very ingenious when he named his twins the same name and now can't tell them apart. But so Alyssa and Alexa are helping Christina get ready, and Christina is talking about the boy that she has a crush on. His name is Tyler. And it turns out that Tyler is Letha's ex-boyfriend. And they were just being like dumb, gossipy teenage girls in this scene. But the thing that I found important about this scene was that the twins, who are clearly, shall we say, loose.
For their age, really.
Yeah. They said that the only person in town who's a bigger prude than Christina is Letha. So that like kind of adds fuel to the she's definitely actually a virgin and her dad's not, like, and it's not like she's having secret sex that she's not willing to talk to her parents about. Like, she's a
Prude.
She's a good Christian girl.
A Christian woman?
Which is actually untrue because at one point Olivia asks Norman about going to church, and Norman said, "When has anyone in this family ever gone to a church?"
True. But she was also reading that Angel's book in the first episode.
Right. Which is probably because she was trying to figure out what kind of angel impregnated her.
Probably. Do research about like, hey, I gotta search up which angel was the one that impregnated me this week. Was it, the Archangel Michael? Like, what? I don't know other names, so but that's the one I know. But like, she's just flipping through like you can call him asking for child support. Like, listen here, Mike, give me that child support.
The Archangel Michael is the only angel you know?
Yep.
Not even like Gabriel, the angel that my sister is named after?
Oh yeah, Gabriel. I know Gabriel.
Yeah.
For all you Supernatural fans, Castiel. This is like Cass with my child support.
Yeah, no, my sister is named after an angel.
She is an angel. But I also haven't gone to church school since I was like 7. So like explains a lot.
I love Jesus. So then we go to Norman's house, and Letha is getting ready for the dance. She's wearing a real cute little flapper outfit. She looks adorbs.
Mm-hmm.
Norman, apparently, before Letha walks in the room, Norman and his wife are having a conversation about a project that the Godfrey Institute has done that has apparently polluted all of the air in the city. So let's look forward to the repercussions of that one. But so Letha goes to get in her date, honks the horn, and her mom gets mad that he's not even coming to the door, and Letha says it's not a date, it's just Roman. So Roman and Letha are going to the dance together.
You know, normal cousins do.
I took Tyler to prom, so...
Right, you did do that. You did take Tyler to prom. Maybe that is normal. We're just thinking too much into it.
Maybe...
But the thing is, like, they have, like, subtle sexual tension going on. Like, there's just...
Yeah. I took Tyler to prom because I wasn't allowed to take my boyfriend, and I promised him I'd introduce him to a girl if he went to the dance with me. There was
brother.
There was no sexual tension at all.
You're not a walking Hemlock Grove like episode, like.
No.
So, out on me now.
Huh?
I literally have to sit here and rub my dog's stomach so he doesn't freak out on me right now.
Oh, cute.
Also, barking and making weird noises.
As dogs do, you know. I don't. Yesterday I had a gecko on my balcony. That's as close to a pet as I have.
Yeah, I feel that. Like, I don't feel that, but like, I love that for you.
Fun fact of the day: the Thai word for gecko is jinjok.
Oh.
Yeah. My next note says, "Who the F is the dude in the woods?"
Oh, yeah.
So we get a scene of this dude in the woods shouting nonsense and vomiting and getting very upset.
And he peers and looks up at the Godfrey building, so clearly they are involved. And
then we cut right back to school.
Mm-hmm.
No explanation, no anything, just cool. So we cut back to school. Everybody's getting there, getting to the dance. Lisa goes to talk to Tyler because he was friends with the girl who died, and she wanted to just check on him. And she was like, hey, like, I'm sure it's rough. If you need somebody to talk to, I'm here. And of course, Christina got all mopey and sad because she liked Tyler, and he's talking to Letha, and she thinks she doesn't have a chance.
But Christina's not the only one that's jealous that Letha is talking to Tyler, because Roman gets all in the fucking corner of the...
Like, he gets on full-on Pennywise. His eyes are, like, bulging out of his face, and these girls are throwing themselves at him, and they're like, do you want to dance? And he's like, no. And then my favorite line... No, this was not my favorite. This is not my favorite line of the episode, but it's one of my favorite lines ever written about teenagers, because she said, you know you're a sociopath. I don't know what that word means, but I think it's you. Yeah. Teenagers do really like to throw the word sociopath around without having any idea what they're talking about.
For sure. There's only one person that I could think legit fit the definition of a sociopath, but knowing that it probably is not true, that it's just like, similarities, but it doesn't mean that they're a sociopath. There's only one person that I know personally.
Oh, personally, I thought you were talking about a character in the show, and I was trying to decide who the character in the show that was a sociopath would be, because I don't think any of them are. I think they're all a little bit messed up. There's definitely some psychopathy happening there, but I don't think anyone on this particular show is a sociopath, except for maybe Dr. Price, because we don't know shit about him.
True. But I know, like, in real life.
Oh.
Real life.
I think I know one too.
Yeah, they're interesting people. They're an interesting breed. But enough about sociopaths. Let's go back to the weird, subtle sexual tension between, cousin and cousin once again. Back in the.
So then Tyler goes to talk to Christina because, fun fact, he does actually have a crush on her because she's pretty, even though she's weird and awkward. And he's trying to get her to dance, and he says a really cute pickup line because she's sitting alone by herself in the corner, and he said, "Nobody puts baby in the corner." And she said, "What?" And he was like, "I thought every girl watched Dirty Dancing." And that's why guys were able to use that as a pickup line, which is hysterical because I will admit right here, I've never watched Dirty Dancing. But if you said to me, "Nobody puts baby in the corner," I would fully know what you were talking about and know that you were hitting on me.
Yes.
So, also, I am ashamed to admit that I've never seen Dirty Dancing.
I am too, like, knowing the type of movies and like that I love, and I've never seen Dirty Dancing. I kind of feel disappointed in myself.
Also, I think my mom thinks I have watched it, so sorry, Mom.
I watched it, and she's still disappointed to this day.
So, but then Christina, because her friends are floozies, tries to be cool and convinces Tyler to sneak out into the hallway with her, which is a horrible idea. Because Roman decides to get it in his head to do some effed up shit. Now, we forgot to mention this moment earlier in the episode because it wasn't really significant earlier in the episode. But for some GD reason, this school has a terrarium with a python in it just chilling in the hallway.
Yeah, like literally, like, no one's business. It's just fucking python just like chilling there. Like, that's just all over it.
There's like some Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone vibes where he's just like leaning against the window, like looking at the snake like they're friends. So then he goes, and in his strange attempt to ruin Tyler's life for being in the same room as Letha, he lets the snake out.
Mm-hmm.
And then promptly tells Letha, "This dance is boring, we're leaving."
Yes.
Followed by everyone having to leave because there's a snake loose in the school.
And I like how the one guy, I think it was the principal or something, like, got on here and said, "Listen, everyone, do not need to panic." And then someone yells, "Snake!" And then everyone just runs.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Then we flash back to the hotel where Olivia goes to the bar to get another drink and then proceeds to have intercourse with the bartender in a car. It's like, why couldn't she just take him back up to the hotel room that she was already in? No, she has to do it in a car. I don't know. But while they're doing it, bartender starts talking about how her ex-husband is a fool to leave her.
And her ex-husband meaning Norman. And it oh, I heard my mom. I thought she was crying. Because I heard, oh, but like I think she was just like out of breath.
Oh,
so
story of my life.
But he is like, Boo, would you knock it off, please? Please. Stop it. Don't
Thanks,
be a
Boo.
nuisance. But he ends up sitting there and like explaining to her about how he thinks that this is her, her husband or her ex-husband, and keeps saying that he's such a fool for leaving you. He's like, I couldn't help but eavesdrop. He's like, you deserve more, and this, that, and the other. Like, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that, and like he's like hyping her up and like giving her a little bit too much hype, if you ask me, because like she ain't that.
And then he starts talking about how Norman was crying over her.
Yeah, and then they're in the middle of doing it. He's like dancing his hands on her legs, and then she tells him to get out of the car because like she's just thinking about like the fact that he was crying.
And she's crying.
Olivia is showing emotion right now. Like,
my notes say Olivia is a trollop. Oh wait, no, she might actually love Norman. Oh, okay.
Wrote down, I said, this bitch has feelings, question mark.
Right. So we briefly see that Olivia has feelings. Then we go to Roman and Letha driving away from the dance, and there Roman is drinking while driving like any responsible rich 17-year-old would be doing. And he's trying to get Letha to drink with him, and she won't. And he's like, stop being a little bitch and have a drink. And she's like, no. He's like, what, are you pregnant?
And she's like,
she said, I was looking for the right time to tell you. To which he just parks the car and starts slamming on the horn and asking who impregnated her, and getting angry and accusing Tyler and reacting in not the way you would react if your cousin told you that they were pregnant.
That's why I think there's a little bit more to their situation.
But the thing is, I don't think there is on her end.
Yeah, not on her end, but on Roman's end. Whether it is of sexual nature or of just like a weird, uncomfortable like protection.
Yeah. I wrote Roman is definitely unnaturally into Letha. Yeah. But so she's like, I can't tell you, you wouldn't understand, blah, blah, blah. She gets out of the car, she's freaking out, and he follows her and he's like, just talk to me. Like, what happened? And then my absolute favorite line of the whole episode, she said, how do you explain dancing to a person with no legs? And he said, I have legs that won't quit. Which I think is the most adorable way of being like, you can tell me anything. Like, I believe you. I trust you. I absolutely love that moment, except for the fact that they're cousins.
Yeah. It would be a really cute moment if.
So cute. Yeah. So then they get back in the car and they continue driving. And the weird guy from the woods runs into the middle of the street and starts saying some shit about the Ouroboros and seeing a dragon. And he saw that girl get killed. And then he sees Roman and he said, it was you. And he starts freaking out and losing his mind.
And he's only like talking calmly when Letha approaches him.
Yeah.
And talking coherently when Letha's there. And then like Roman walks over and he was like, oh my God, it was you. It was you. It's you. And then he like freaks out and he starts like talking like fucking nonsense again.
Yeah, and stuff about dragons and snakes, and he has one eye that's like clouded over.
He has like cataract.
Yeah. So that is a mess. And then we go, and then we have one more nighttime shot where Peter's chilling at his house, and then there's a weird noise outside, and he runs outside, and there's some girls giggling and running away from his trailer after dropping a wolf mask on a stick at his trailer. And he kind of laughs at it a little bit. Like, he's annoyed, but also, like, bemused.
He's like, this is, like, ridiculous kind of thing.
Then
we're back in school at this point. Oh.
Are we?
I'm trying to remember because I know they're talking.
It's the next morning, and Peter's getting ready for school, and he's washing his face in the mirror, and he has a flashback to something his grandpa said to him about Upirs, and them having darkness behind their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next scene is at school, and Peter's chilling, hanging out by a wall like all the loner boys do. And Roman, who just desperately needs a friend, comes over and starts talking to him and trying to be his friend. And Peter calls him boring and walks away. And it's hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a scene where at a farmer's market where there is an awkward, uncomfortable, secret code language meetup between Linda, which is Peter's mom's name, and Olivia, where we get absolutely no information.
Oh, 100%. It was just to add, tension to the character.
Yeah, but
other.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if the little weird specialty store speech that Linda gives Olivia is actually supposed to mean anything.
I have a feeling it does.
But I don't know what.
The vials.
I'm sure that they were meeting about the vials, and she told her to call her, but it was just very weird.
Strange. She could have done it in a lot more simpler terms instead of like whatever the hell. But
and now we get to the part of the episode where I completely lost all consciousness of what was happening in the episode. So earlier when Peter and Roman are having their weird meeting outside the school where Roman's desperately trying to be Peter's friend, he asks Peter if he read
Wuthering Heights
for school, and Peter says, no, I just watched the movie. So then they're sitting in English class, and Roman passes Peter a note, and it just says, can I watch? The first thought was, oh, he wants to watch the movie with him because the book's confusing. That makes sense.
No.
Then, that's the end of that scene. Then we flash back to Peter's house, and he's talking to his mom, and his mom's freaking out, and he's like, they're bringing him here, he's coming here, why is he coming here? And she says, and Peter repeats I just feel like something really big is about to happen. And she says, I know what this is, you've never had a friend before. And then she said, I hope those balls know what they're doing. So I was like, oh, they're gonna have sex.
Yeah, that's literally where I went with that. I was like,
forget Wuthering Heights, we're having boy sex.
Yeah.
Then Roman arrives, and he And Peter introduces him to his mom, and then they sit down on the couch, and Linda offers Roman some milk, and then asks Peter if he wants any, and he said, no, I can't, like the lactic acid. She's like, oh yeah, that's right, his stomach gets really weak. And Peter's like getting real anxious and like knocking stones on things and taking his rings off. And she's like, he just gets really nervous before it happens. And I was like, what, is his mom gonna watch some ham sex?
That's what I was saying. Like, what? Like, is he about to like do some weird like ritualistic thing where he has to have sex with someone? What? I didn't know what was happening. But again, it just, the sexual tension is just so like heavy between like almost any character. It's like you never know which way it's.
So then he continues to take off all his jewelry, and they make a very like interesting camera point of like taking off the jewelry and stuff. And I only then was like, oh, he's a werewolf. Okay.
He's gonna wolf up.
Yes.
Or just
So,
not used to, seeing wolves, like dressed down.
themselves for that moment.
Because like, kind of rip your clothes and then boom. So like.
Yeah. So then Roman and Linda go outside to prepare themselves to watch. And Peter comes outside and he is butt-ass naked. He does have a real cute butt. They showed his real cute butt. No full frontal nudity, just cute butt. But I appreciated the butt from a storytelling point of view because I am so goddamn sick of vampire shows and werewolf shows where the werewolves just wolf out and hulk their clothes off their bodies, and then what? Do you just shred through your pants every month and have to buy new ones? Like, I don't, it literally makes no sense. So I was like, oh good, he's naked so he doesn't ruin any of his clothes because he's poor and he doesn't have a lot of clothes. I appreciate you. Fantastic.
Yes. Now, this next part is where I sat with the biggest smile on my face, and I guarantee you Mary Kate was sitting in fear.
I sat like this.
This motherfucker, you start hearing cracking, and he's like, like jerking around, and his bones are literally like contorting to be merged into a wolf.
Which is fine. That part, the cracking was gross, but like, this is not the first time that I have seen werewolf transformations depicted as horribly painful and bones cracking. We're fine. And
then all of a sudden he's like grabbing at his face and blood starts to come out of his eyes through his hands. And then
his eyeballs pop out of his head.
He's bent over like this and you just see them pop out. And the thing is, it looks so realistic because it looks like if like your brain like had pressure in it and it just like popped your eyeball.
And then it doesn't stop there. It gets worse. His skin starts like peeling and ripping, and it's like his fur is literally ripping out of his skin.
Yes, and the coolest part ever is that he's now down on like all fours, but he still has like some skin on him, and it pans over his back, and you can see the wolf fur starting to come out, and like the bones starting to contort. But the coolest part is from his fucking mouth, the wolf nose, like the snout of the wolf starts coming out, and his just like mouth tears in two, and just like pretty much he just slides almost out of it and gets his wolf head out of it. And then this whole like gruesome transformation where it's like you see him like ripping off pieces of his skin and just throwing like up against, you hear like a slap noise because he throws it up against the RV at one point. And then
the most horrifying thing I've ever seen.
It was one of the best, I think, werewolf transformation depictions I have seen on a television series. Recently, I didn't watch many, like I didn't watch a lot of werewolf movies like in the past.
No, I think it's one of the most I mean, it was gruesome. It was horrible to watch. But like you read all this werewolf fiction and stuff, and you hear all these things talking about how it's a horrible transformation. And like earlier in the episode, Roman asked Peter if it was going to hurt, and Peter says, "You wouldn't know if a bus hit you." Like it's supposed to be disgustingly painful. And like in Vampire Diaries, they talk about how it's so painful. But it's the first time, and I've watched a lot of vampire and werewolf things because I was that girl in 2008. But I've never seen something that actually showed it as painful as like an actual full. Like in Harry Potter, when they transform into werewolves, you can tell that it hurts, but it's like shitty CGI. And in Twilight, they just like turn back and forth like it's like putting a new shirt on.
Exactly.
But so this was horrible. But it got worse.
Because now now like the wolf is like the big wolves you see in Twilight. It looks like a legit wolf.
Yeah. I loved that because it wasn't like creepy werewolf. It was literally just a wolf.
And so he ends up being fully emerged from his skin suit, and he shakes off all the blood, and all of his skin is like that he like molted is like steaming hot, and Wolf him eats his old like
he ate his own skin. I literally wrote, "Holy shit, he's eating himself."
And then then Peter like gallivants off into the woods, and
Roman's thing.
And Roman's standing there with Linda, and my favorite line of the whole show has been said. And what was it, Mary Kate?
You've gotta be fucking kidding me.
And that is how the fucking episode. I feel like Roman just summed everyone felt when they were watching.
Exactly. I literally, as I was watching it, it went black, and I was like, "Me too, bro." Like out loud, I was like, "I feel you. I don't know what just happened."
Exactly.
It was intense.
It was intense, but this episode we got a lot of answers that I think that we were wondering about the last episode, but it's like we got like 1,000 more questions.
Yeah. I was worried when I read the description and then like the pregnancy scene happened. I was worried that it was just going to be more piling garbage on us and just throwing things at the wall to see if they stick. But I do feel like for the most part, it had a way better narrative arc than the first story did. It went back and forth a lot, but it kind of went back and forth between Roman and Peter and Olivia. And like that's the only back and forth it went. And so it's kind of narrowing its focus onto the three main characters. And so I did really appreciate that.
Sleeping, and he looked really cute. Then he moved and like up. They did a really good job with this episode. I think I feel like season 1 it's gonna have some pretty lull moments, but I feel like there's just the cast that they have working for them. As long as they keep it with this cast, I feel like they can save it with.
I don't ever think, based on the actors that they have and the talent that those actors have in other things that I've seen them in, both before and after this, I don't think the acting will ever be where I feel
The issue will be.
The issues. I like this episode was again still written by the author of the books, so the narrative, like the narrative is still very set. I don't think we're going, like I said, I don't think there's going to be questionable story elements until probably season 3, because I believe season 3 is the only one that Brian McGreevy doesn't work on at all. So that was episode 2.
It was really good. Do you want to do possible theories and talk about where we were possibly wrong in our previous ones, or if we change our previous theories from last week.
Yes. But first, does anyone deserve a throat punch this episode?
I'm trying to think if anyone deserves a throat punch.
There's one character who I wouldn't say overall in the episode deserved a throat punch, but there was one moment when I very severely wanted to punch them.
Who?
Roman.
I was going to say that when he was getting all possessive over Lisa at the dance.
At the school dance. By the end of the episode and his trying to be friends and understand what's going on with him and bonding with Peter, and I appreciate Roman. He's starting to grow on me. But during the school dance in his little Gatsby suit while staring at his cousin like a fucking psycho, throat punch.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Because I haven't grown like a big hatred towards like Olivia, even though I can feel it coming. I feel like she's gonna be getting an honorary throat punch one of these.
Bad for her this episode. I didn't expect to feel bad for her, but I felt bad for her.
Part of me feels bad for her, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't, because the man's married. Like, I feel bad that you're going through this, but like you're also screwing a married man.
But like, have you ever been in love with a guy who was married?
Can't say that I have. No.
It's not fun.
Yeah, I could see it also not being fun.
So, moving on. The trivia for this episode, there's only one piece of trivia according to the interwebs, and I find it fascinating because I am a freak. And that is that in the scene in the hallway where Roman is parcel tonguing the snake, it is a ball python. But then when it is seen writhing around the floor after the dance, it has suddenly become a king snake. Pythons and king snakes are both constrictor-esque snakes, but they are very different in size and geographical region. Also, ball pythons are native to Africa, and that dog is such a weirdo. Many of the tribes in Africa believe that they have superstitions about ball pythons and about like them being part of the earth, whereas king snakes are native to like Southern America and have no superstition about them whatsoever. They just there.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one they are story-wise intending it to be, but probably a python. But my guess would be that the python in the cage was CGI, and then when they needed a practical snake, they only had access to the king snake.
Probably. And anything that you would... Oh, what were you going to say?
That was all the trivia that we have for this episode.
Yeah. Not much trivia is still coming out of this. I feel like certain shows are going to have trivia, certain ones aren't, but...
Well, I also feel like it's very early. A lot of times when shows have trivia, it's like flashbacks to things that happened earlier or like hidden messages, but it's really hard to have hidden messages in the second episode of a show that doesn't have a lot of following. Like there are some shows like Once Upon a Time has a lot of hidden Lost references because it was made by the same people who made Lost, and Lost had such a massive following that they were able to do that. But like the producers of this show have never worked in TV before. Oh, I did find one person who has watched the show. One.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but so it's really hard to throw in hidden messages when nobody has seen your show.
Yeah, exactly. And now, based on our theories from last week, is there anything you would change? Are you sticking with your theory? Or
the one thing I will admit defeat on is that I do not believe that Peter killed the girl. I genuinely, truly do not believe that anymore.
I
I don't believe that Roman did.
I don't either. I don't think either of them did it.
Yeah.
I think there is going to be a greater force at play, whether it be, like, it might be from Dr. Price. That's how it's looking. Like, Dr. Price, I think, is having a bigger. Oh, can you stop, please? Dr. Price is having a bigger role in all of this than I think we have to bargain for. And I think that Peter and Roman are going to probably put their differences aside to fight this greater evil, but they're going to have to go through becoming friends first and helping Roman understand what he is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know without knowing what he is.
Yeah, I do think that they are well on their way to becoming friends. I think we were right about the team up. I
just didn't expect in the very next episode.
We literally said it wouldn't happen next episode, and then it did. I don't believe an angel impregnated Letha. I just don't know what did.
Yeah. I don't think it's an angel either.
Obviously, the show has a lot of supernatural elements. We just watched the worst werewolf transformation I've ever seen in my life. There are vampires, werewolves, there's weird snake creatures. The crazy guy in the woods was talking about dragons. Like, I believe that it is something, not necessarily someone, but I don't know that I believe it was an angel. I have a feeling it is a far less benevolent circumstance.
I could agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know I feel like I won't be able to have a lot of good predictions until we know more about Dr. Price, because he is just such a mysterious character right now.
An enigma at this point.
Yeah.
But
also,
nonetheless,
I have a feeling, and I don't want to say this because I hope I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Christina's going to die before the end of the season.
She might.
They're just giving us so much on her, and she's either going to end up being like super supernatural and not know it, or she's going to die.
Yeah. Because like they wouldn't hone in on this random girl who like came across Peter in the season.
She's not part of either of the main family, and they haven't really given us any information on anyone else in town except her. And so she's either connected to the supernatural elements, or she's the main, like, really big victim of the season.
I think my guess is that I feel like it might have something to do with supernatural, though, because like she just knows too much supernatural shit to pretend like there's nothing like spooky going on with her.
But does she? Because I still think she really only just said that because she likes books and movies.
It could be one of those things where it makes you want to think that, or it could be one of those things that is that. So it's I think a purposeful thing that they're trying to play so that you won't know until something gets revealed. Whenever it happens.
Yeah, which, based on our strength of guessing, could be the next episode.
Very true. Very, very true.
All right. Well, that is our recap and predictions for episode 2. If you have any theories for us that we are missing, or want to ask us questions about our theories or about Boo and him interrupting our videos, you can email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Both of them are at MK_superstar, MK spelled EMKAY.
And for me, you can get a hold of me on Instagram at monica.lynn_ and Twitter as monilyn_ MONIELYNN_ And you can DM me any questions, anything like that. If you have any questions about the show, any theories that you would like to discuss, because we are open to hearing them. Just if you've seen the show, don't spoil it because we have not seen it all yet.
Yeah, and if you do have anything you want to share with us that will have spoilers in it, please put that in the title of the email, just so that we are prepared going in, because we really don't want to be spoiled. We to the point where we tried to find out more about the CGI used in the werewolf effects and started watching a YouTube video, and it said season 2, and we turned it off. So, like, we don't, it's rare that we go into a show where we genuinely know nothing, so we would like to continue to know nothing.
Absolutely.
So,
and enjoyed Boo. He's in my bed every time we film these videos. He's just, particularly rambunctious this morning. He probably has to pee.
He's our guest host, so you can expect more cameos from him.
Yes.
All right. We will see you guys again next week.
All right. Bye. Say bye to Boo. Bye.